It's got us in trouble with the newspapers, certainly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so yeah, I've been a Daily Mail cover star. Happy to say.
Oh, excellent! Congratulations.
And I can assure you that our costumes are about as inauthentic as it's possible to be. A few years later, I was working embassy jobs, and I was the intelligence officer of the Japanese embassy when the Islamic State invaded Iraq. So I got to see all that, and then we were under siege in Baghdad, and then working for another embassy, saw a lot of the aftermath with the Islamic State being driven back up north again, and all that stuff. So I've seen quite a bit of it. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest. It's there's something vital about it, and you live every day. Every day is extremely long and full of packed with experience. It's very grim. I mean, if you think about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia at the moment, that's all going on, and we just forget about it and go about our daily business.
Welcome to another edition of In the Chair with. This time, Cupchair's had the privilege of talking with Graham from Stuka Squadron. In this episode, we discuss vampirism, war, and, of course, brutal metal. Welcome to In the Chair with. Graham, welcome to In the Chair with Stuka Squadron. Firstly, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine. It's daylight, which is not our best time, and also it's been sunny, which is unpleasant for the rain and the drizzle. But what can you do?
Well, it is what it is. It's interesting you mentioned the sun, because is there not a kind of vampiric element to your music and image, as well as the very obvious kind of World War II themology? Why don't you walk me through that?
We recruit musicians only from the vampire community. So where that might sound a bit exclusive, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But it is true. And also the other requirement is that they must have served in a Luftwaffe squadron in World War II. That does narrow down options to a certain extent.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I would say that does.
However, it's very specialised.
Yeah. No, indeed. It would be very insufferable should you lose a band member, because that's quite a CV that one must be wielding.
Well, there were a few of us. The lucky thing is the undead, of course, have preternatural talents in many ways. So for them to be, for example, master the guitar is far easier than it would be for a mortal. Plus, we have more time.
Right.
There's long nights in which to practice, and the punishments for failure are dire.
Yes. Okay.
Holy.
Such as.
Endless torture in what we call the fiery pit, which is our special prison we have for failed members, which we've all visited at one time or another, including me. So there we are.
So how did this collective of undead vampiric ex-squadron leaders come to fruition?
What do you mean? Why did we form a band?
Well, yes, indeed. Yep. I mean, that's a simpler way of putting the question. I was going to capitalise on your narrative.
yes, I see. A band is more of an act. But why did we form the act? It was simply because if you read the history books, fact. 1 second.
That's okay.
Second World War by a lesser-known historian, Anthony Beaver. You may have come across him.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Wait one moment. So if we go to, this is his grandly titled Second World War in one volume, which is already arguable. Okay, but if we go in here, I think we'll find that the word Stuka appears many, many times. So I'll just check that. If it doesn't, I'm going to be outraged. I'm going to be outraged in a minute anyway.
Oh, we got the wrong name. Yeah.
That would be appalling.
After all this time.
Okay, here we go. Stalin, Stalingrad, Stavka, Stuka's not in there either, actually. There you go. All right, but even worse than that. So if we look at if we go to vampire, no mention.
Okay.
That's absolutely appalling. I mean, outrageous.
Well, no. It's because it's that kind of it's one of those unspoken truths. It's one of those unspoken realities that it dare not be cast into ink into the annals of history.
So, are you saying that most people actually know?
Oh, I'm saying that
I've consulted numerous documentaries, including, for example, A Bridge Too Far, which I consulted recently. I participated in Band of Brothers. I watched Saving Private Ryan. There were no revenants anywhere. None. Oh, and Enemy at the Gates, if you behold at the beginning, there are Stukas, which is good. So, dogs. Not a
Yes.
single inhabited by a vampire, which is just wrong. Outrageous falsehood.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there's some truth in something else. I'm trying to remember the name of the film that I watched, but it was essentially a group of younger, obviously they're all good looking, aren't they? They go on a little holiday somewhere in the middle of the snow, and underneath. Yes, yeah, you know the
Dead
one.
Snow.
Yeah,
Dead Snow, I Die. Yeah,
yes,
a masterpiece. And in fact, that is simply a fly on the wall documentary, nothing else.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
For those who don't know Dead Snow, the story is as I've outlaid it, but I think underneath them is all sorts of tunnels, and they're filled with kind of Nazi zombies. I think that's
Absolutely
probably
correct. And of course, that really happened, real event. And
Yes.
the only other reliable documentary I've seen so far is Iron Sky.
Okay. Yep.
I'm not probably supposed to talk about that. That's not true. It's just made up.
Okay.
There's no moon base. It's just a silly conspiracy theory. No point looking for it. You won't find it. Just want to make that completely clear.
So, is this kind of leaning towards the history? Obviously, you personally are in possession of these books, and clearly this is something you've taken interest on, or is on a kind of human level. Was this always going to be something in your personal journey? You've obviously got a love of history. You've got a love of rock/metal. Yeah, so, how did that all fuse together?
How did it all fuse? Actually, I mean, I can tell you the exact moment that Stuka Squadron appeared in my mind. I was in Iraq in 2007 or 8, and I was walking through, no, it must be 2007. I was walking through Camp Victory in Baghdad, kicking my way through the sand, and I was thinking about vampires and how vampires are cool. I wanted to do a heavy metal band with vampires, but they're not cool enough. Just on their own, it's not enough.
Yeah.
How do you make it even cooler, right? So it's like, well, you put them in an airplane that's really cool. And then an A-10 Warthog went past, and I was like, Warthog Squadron. And then I thought, no one's going to want to be in that.
No.
Terrible name. Even though A-10 Warthogs are really cool. And I thought, well, what's the baddest, nastiest looking aircraft that there's ever been in all of time? And the one that popped into my head was, of course, the Ju-87 Stuka. Partly because I remember when I was a teenager going into pubs where you'd meet veterans quite a bit, and they all talked about being stukered, and the noise, the siren. They'd hear it coming from a long way away, and they all talked about it, and I'd heard it quite a few times. And so that was just like, and I remember I just stopped and started laughing because it was too cool. Had to do it. It's just, a necessity. So I explained that to James, the singer at the time who I was working with. And he was like, if you say so. And there we are. That's how we started the journey.
Well, it's certainly flourished into quite a striking image. I mean, I reviewed the footage as multiple bands at the Carts and Horses that we covered, and I have the job of kind of going through the footage and whatever afterwards. And I was just like, this was so cool, Unfortunately, it wasn't a night that I could personally make, but I thoroughly enjoyed everything that you've put together in terms of like costume design and all this kind of stuff. It looks very authentic. I wonder if it's got you in trouble with customs at all.
No trouble with customs yet.
No, good.
It's got us in trouble with the newspapers, certainly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've been a Daily Mail cover star. Happy to say.
Oh, excellent! Congratulations.
Yeah, a long time. It was in 2019. It's not that long ago.
No.
That was some time back, but most metal fans appreciate that it's an act. And actually, you talk about authenticity. When I said that I participated in Band of Brothers, that's exactly correct. In that, I portrayed an SS Stormtrooper in Band of Brothers, which is partly where the interest came from. And I can assure you that our costumes are about as inauthentic as it's possible to be. We're supposed to be Luftwaffe pilots, but if you look at, we looked at Luftwaffe pilots when we were designing the costumes, and we're like, they look really silly, so we're not doing that. And then we looked at RAF pilots, we're like, no, absolutely not, it's all blue. But this is actually sort of, it looks a bit like halfway between an SS uniform and kind of like a Gestapo one with the long coats and everything else. So it's a bit like an SS uniform, but it's actually just compiled of things that every metalhead has in their cupboard, which is exactly what we wanted. All you need to do is hats. The rest of it is just stuff that you will have somewhere in your cupboard, no doubt. Long coat.
Yeah.
Although Although I am quite literally wearing jackboots. That's the only concession apart from the hat.
Yes, no, yeah. I mean, it's Hugo Boss fashion at the end of the day. I mean,
Well,
you know,
Hugo Boss do have a record of knowing what to doing with fashion. Yes, and they did look. Well, they were notorious for looking quite smart as well.
Well, at the risk of being on my own, having my very own Daily Mail headline, you know, war crimes aside, the fashion is it's very unique and striking, and I'm sure that was part of its intention.
Absolutely.
Particularly as kind of pre-Second World War Germany was essentially kind of rags and tags and destroyed society. So, you know, I think a well-polished uniform kind of commanded some presence which allowed the mechanisms of that government to take hold.
No, I mean, the German kit, including, I mean, they were designed, a lot of it was designed for, it just looks cool. And there's something very metal about that. Like, look at Titan. That.
Yeah.
They are completely over-engineered, completely impractical, very effective in some ways, but there was always a consideration that they look cool to attract people and make people excited about the idea. Whereas if you look at British kit, it's all very functional, cheap-looking, because it was the cheapest thing they could do all the time. So our guys were kind of, if you've ever seen battle dress, I had to wear it when I was in cadets. It's bloody awful. Like a big baggy thing with and made of like this horrible material, and then the silly massive tin hat. Just horrific. So I mean, they were much better at this stuff, just making things look cool, making things look mean, and that's a metal attitude. They were very metal ideas.
Well,
the plane had a siren on it just to scare people.
Well, yes.
That's astounding.
Indeed, I mean, metal that it does portray a very kind of forceful image, and I think that's quite, you know, because a lot of the narrative behind the music, it tends to be very kind. It explores elements of humanity, faith, existence, trials, problems. Parts of society, hopes and dreams. It conveys it in a very strong way. You could argue on the complete antithesis on the other side of metal. You could argue that, you know, pick any religion, that their word is delivered, you know, very, very strongly, and it has a strong image attached to it. But I don't see why people find metal so kind of, you know, offensive. And I think what's beautiful about the genre is that it's a collective of people that, you know, are not afraid to approach certain kind of elements and insights and understanding. You find a lot of good psychology behind all of this.
Psychology. We'll get into that in just a moment. And you're absolutely right. The good thing at metal is a space in which you can explore dark ideas, and that's what it has to be. They're not always dark ideas. I mean, you've got Gojira doing their green stuff and Green Lung and all the rest of it doing their, and that's all great. That's all great.
Well. If you look at one of my gateways into, you know, the heavier side of stuff was a band called Dimmu Borgir.
Yes, of course.
Yes. I got them into about 2000. It was the album Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropy. But if you actually go through all of the lyrics in that, you know, it's all, and a lot of Dimmu Borgir stuff, it's all about that journey from the darkness into the light and self-acceptance, and this is something that is explored in traditional psychology. It's explored in Buddhism. It's explored in every written text, and has been from the dawn of time. And when I had friends and like, oh, this is all screaming and it's black and it's satanic, and it's like, no, it's a journey from the visceral side of darkness at its worst to the path, you know, to an arriving of light at its best. And is that not what you want? Do you want to be a full person, or do you want to know the full range of your character? Because once you know that darkest side of yourself, you can then police it, and then you can actually use that to turn the yin and the yang to the other side and become a lighter person.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd probably take the other direction. It's not, well, actually, a lot of our songs are about fighting against overwhelming odds and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And attempting to triumph in the face of adversity. extreme adversity, like the impossible odds, if you will, but still carry on going and do it, which is what people did when they climbed into Zeppelins, for example.
Yeah.
So you've got a giant sausage full of hydrogen, and you think you're going to somehow win First World War by, just randomly going across Britain, dropping very small bombs on places.
Indeed, and you're so large and you're so vulnerable, and then similar on the ground. You think that running across in your boots in slippery wet mud in droves of hundreds, with gas and metal and everything all bursting around you, and when that fails, it's fine. We'll just send another couple of hundred people. It's we owe a great gratitude to all of these individuals that participate, and perhaps controversially, some of these tactics we would frown upon now, but they were the best.
They're absolutely current
at the time.
Current. Yeah. No, I mean, if you look at Ukraine now, it's exactly the same. There's no difference. It's trench warfare with they've got tanks and things, but they are doing trench warfare now. And the Russian philosophy is still to try and outlast them with manpower. So those tactics are current even today.
Wow, yeah. I mean, but the additional problem with that is we have all these drones. And going really off topic now, where I saw a video the other day of this Russian guy, and he's in some kind of like almost like a drain or something. It's very short. It's got little hills, small enclosure here with some bush, and there's another one just a short way, and he's hiding. And this drone is trying to get into the weeds, and it's running to the other end, and it's like vroom up round, and eventually it gets in there, and then it just detonates, and it's just
I'm with you.
Like, fuck me, what? Like, that is just, excuse my French, but that is just a hellish experience. And whilst the rumours about conscription have been watered down by the wet lettuce that was Rishi Sunak, why would anyone want to go and fight for a country against essentially flying fleas that can just basically do away with you any second? War is and always has been a scary it's a scary environment, but it's the technology that gets introduced to it, whether it was new back in the First World War, new back in the Second World War, or in current day. It's frightening stuff.
I rather enjoyed Iraq, to be honest with you.
Well, I was going to say, does any of your experiences there bleed in, and what experiences bleed in?
Yeah, no, okay. So I was in Iraq for 6 years altogether. I was been in Basra. I was in Fallujah with the US Marine Corps during the surge. So they saw the Betrayus effect at full hand. And then I was in Baghdad. When I invented Stuka, I was probably not in the best frame of mind. Okay, mentally, I was probably somewhat gone. And that partly explains why Stuka looks as it does. But yes, and then I was in Baghdad. I surged with the 1st Airborne, I was attached to them doing stuff with the US Corps of Engineers. So I'd seen quite a bit by that point. And then a few years later, I was working embassy jobs, and I was the intelligence officer of the Japanese embassy when the Islamic State invaded Iraq. So I got to see all that, and then we were under siege in Baghdad, and then working for another embassy, saw a lot of the aftermath with the Islamic State being driven back up north again, and all that stuff. So I've seen quite a bit of it. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest. It's there's something vital about it, and you live every day. Every day is extremely long and packed with experience. But sometimes I couldn't believe the things we were doing. Just you do staggering things, and we're making history on a daily basis.
And often, perhaps, I don't know, you correct me or educate me, but often perhaps for very little thanks or appreciation.
Thanks. Nobody cared. Nobody cared at all what we were doing. I mean, people cared in Iraq, obviously, but when you came home, no one even knew what it was going on. So
we're all blissfully unaware, doing our shopping in Tesco's, complaining about the extra 2p on oil or petrol and all this kind of stuff. It's the raining today. This pothole isn't fixed. Whether you're going out there and traversing grim territory.
Well, yes, it's very grim. I mean, if you think about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia at the moment, that's all going on, and we just forget about it and go about our daily business. But to someone, that's their entire existence. To a lot of people.
Yeah.
Including the person who designed our album cover, oddly enough, who lives in one of the... I found this town on Google Maps that seems to be inside one of the Russian zones now, so I don't know what's happened to him. But hopefully he's still around.
Yes.
Because we need services for the next one.
Yeah, well, reach out and hopefully is all right. And this is a thing, it's not just it's not just about sort of territory. We talk about the news talks about very easily people kind of are suffering or injured and what have you, but there's so many other things attached to this, like loss of like artistry. I live in a world where I try and kind of support musicians to invest in their talents as a way of kind of surpassing the vicissitudes of life, and I think we all do in this creative circle, whatever it is that our art or their passions are. But there's a lot of loss of that and a lot of potential loss that goes with it, and it's just sad to see. But at the same time,
lost in World War II, for example. I mean, the Nazis looted the work of art which disappeared, and some of it's never been recovered.
Well, indeed, and I mean the Islamic State, the Caliphate, and all of that kind of stuff.
They've
done exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were destroying culture deliberately. It's what barbarians do.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. It is. It is barbarianism. So how do you kind of go from, as you say, quite enjoying your role in Iraq to then kind of coming back home and just kind of living your normal average citizen day-to-day life, and then with the band attached to it, would that life be different if the band wasn't attached? Because there's obviously some kind of connection.
I would, if it wasn't for the fact that Stuka was kind of taking off and we were doing things, I'd have stayed in Iraq for much longer.
Right, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was simply because metal is too big a draw.
Yeah, it's call of the wild.
Well, absolutely. Work can't be allowed to get in the way of that stuff. So you have to come back and get on with things. So, at the time, the band had just formed. We started doing shows and stuff. But we were working towards the Tales of the Ost album, and that needed to get an album out and everything else. So that's why I left Iraq in the first place. I went back again later on when I wasn't doing the band at that point.
Okay.
And then there we are. It's like even now I've got to go out to Somalia on Friday.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And then I'm in Nigeria next month. So, it still goes on.
What are you doing out there? Was it classified?
No, it's not classified. Just trading intelligence. It could be. Yeah, no, it could easily be by my work, but it's not this time. I'm just trading orders and basic stuff.
No. Well, everybody needs the basics in place, as I'm sure. Without the foundations, they've got no chance of success. But that's a very different kind of element, because it kind of takes you out from being someone that was kind of active on the ground, and now you're more in an instructional role. I wonder what that must be like. Is that quite fulfilling? It's
good. It's good. I enjoy teaching. Yeah. I think I won't have any choice about going back into an active role fairly soon, though, the way things are going.
Yeah, I mean, you're closer to I suppose, the inner wheels and the rumour mill, or the information wheel, I suppose one would say. You think that's a likely possibility? Britain getting wrapped up in a... I
think it's an inevitability, to be honest, because I believe, my assessment is that China is likely to invade Taiwan, and that's likely to be the trigger for a more general conflict from this position. That's based on open source.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have seen quite a lot of corroboration of what we call combat indicators.
Yeah. Scary times. So you've probably have you got a new album you're going to record before that happens?
I don't know. It took us 3 years to do Zeppelin because it had to be okay. So the chances of me getting this done before a certain date by which I think things will happen are quite slim. Zeppelin only came out in December.
Yes,
so we're starting to tour it now. Mm-hmm. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little campaign around One Man Blitzkrieg. We're going to do a video. We're working on that. We've got our Blitzkrieg to appear in it. To how we're going to go about it, it's a little bit unclear, but we're working through that. Then I think a new range of shirts.
Yeah.
New range of shirts, possibly with "I'm a Tank" on it for the blokes to wear when they're all banging into each other down the front.
Yeah, no, no, indeed. I saw on the website. Yes, you lean very heavily into. Let me just. I'm just clicking around. You lean very heavily into it's like called the Armory, or Das Armory is actually the hyperlink. Lots of cool stuff. I mean, it's the imagery and the artwork. You know, it's a very good. It's very standout. Even as I get going back to where I was doing the video editing, someone kind of give the camera going around the merch stall and what have you, and your stuff was just like sort of stand out. So it's an absolute fire, like production wise.
Well, funny how the glows in the dark was good as well, which we weren't aware of.
What's that? That your t-shirt glows
The
in the
shirt
dark?
glows in the dark. Yeah, this shirt here, the one with Von Blitzen on the front.
Oh well, how cool! How?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, we didn't know that.
That's an added bonus. Oh well, there we go. That's awesome. But when you do the next run of t-shirts, are you able to make the same like mistake or unaware thing to make him glow in the dark again?
Yeah, well, actually, the design comes from our record label. So we're with Metal on Metal Records, and Joita, who's the principal there, she does a lot of the design for a lot of Metal on Metal bands. So she designed this shirt. Yep. Which has been pretty successful so far. Lots of people have bought this one. So yeah, we'll get her to do it again. Hopefully it'll be luminous again. That'll be top end. But even if not, an eye-catching shirt. We actually make so much more money now off shirts than we do off our music.
Okay, that's good. That's because, you know, you see a lot as a musician and in supporting musicians, you see so much stuff rattling around on social media about streams, about getting your website organized, about, you know, selling merch and stuff. And it's all quite, you know, daunting and difficult. You know, what's your advice as you've clearly created this brand and this project? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the main thing, just make a shirt that you would wear if it didn't have the band logo on it. So something that looks cool anyway. Like the shirt you're wearing now, I really like the design. I think it looks great. I don't know if it's a bunch of goblins or something. But for example,
they're sheep's heads.
They are sheep's heads. Okay.
Yeah.
They look like goblins, which is cool.
Yes. Yeah. They're sort of goblinified sheep's heads. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you make it look cool anyway, then it is something you would buy. Something you would buy just to look cool if you saw it, didn't have a band logo on. Then you put the band logo on, then you put the lyrics on it. It's got a Zeppelin on the back. How can you lose with that? How can you lose?
Okay, yeah.
That's the thing. Like, make it look cool, whatever.
So, the translating that is don't just pick your album cover and shove it on a templated t-shirt. Take some time, get your imagery right. You know, and as you say, if it looks cool and you're happy with it without the logo on, then you start patterning it out. Yeah, I mean it's very cool.
We've gone for the round design, as you can see, and he's got his.
I think the round design is a fire thing all around. That's something I've kind of gravitated to.
Yeah, no, I think it works really well. It is the album cover. The reason the bands pick album covers is they think that they look good, right?
Yeah, so yeah.
Album cover on is not necessarily a bad thing, but make it look as cool as you can, of course. And if you can modify it and make it look a bit different, but yeah, rather than just a cut and paste, stick it on. And get a proper designer to do it who knows what they're doing. Anything else you could add? What we could really do, there's some side flashes and things like that, and everything else. And
yeah, be careful, you might appear on the Daily Mail again with the side patches. Yeah, it's fine. It's all free.
They can't run that story again. They've already done that.
So when it comes to performing live, because obviously there's all of this kind of you know, war aggression built into the music. How do you kind of perpetuate that on a live scale?
It's very simple to keep the aggression up. The music just lends itself to that. It's impossible to do anything else. You know, if you're playing aggressive riffs, you're going to look aggressive. We're Stuka Squadron. That's how it goes. But if you think any of it's not rehearsed, all of our spontaneity is rehearsed, obviously. We've got a good idea what we're going to do before we get there. We've got a good idea of what the moves are going to be. We know where everyone's going to stand. We know how we're going to pose, all that stuff. And a lot of bands will go, well, that's not rock and roll or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just professionalism. Every part of the show is important.
Well, I would imagine with some of the wealth of your experience, you'd probably know ways to present and product things to catch people by surprise. You know, given the areas you've traversed, things you've said.
We do try. What we haven't got in as much at the moment as we used to. We used to do a lot of work with blood balloons and all that stuff. Yeah. And at some point we're bringing that out again at the moment. At the moment we're kind of honing just getting the music right and making sure that all that part of the show's done. But it's all building. It's all building bit by bit. We're getting better and better. It's like every show feels like this. This is a completely new lineup. It's one important thing to understand. It's like the Tales of the Ost lineup. There's nobody still in the band from those days.
Yeah.
So these are guys who have come in for this album. So we're rebuilding the entire thing. But as time's going on, it's speeding up in terms of understanding, the right way to do Stuka.
Yeah. Well, it's looking and sounding fantastic. So where are you next, just to kind of close off?
Okay, we've got absolutely no dates booked at present, so I can't tell you anything.
Oh, boo-hoo.
I know. But that's given us time to work on... We've got some people said some things in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. Just had a narrow miss with something related to Black Sabbath. I don't know if I can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll blank that out. Yep. But okay. So there's something in the pipeline.
There's definitely things in the pipeline. So what we're doing at the moment is we're just using this time to work on bring some of the older songs back to the set, and work on bits and pieces that aren't in the set at the moment. So we're adding in new songs. So at the end of the day, we want to be able to pull out everything from both albums and possibly start putting things in the album that we don't talk about as well. So we'll see about that.
Well,
and a mystery cover as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be one of the first to know when you're kind of playing about in London, performing again. I will go and get Great Granddad's trench coat out of the loft.
You know where that idea came from, by the way?
Go on.
Our producer is actually Paul Miles, who was in the Nephilim.
Okay. I love Fields of the Nephilim. They're just
I love Fields of the Nephilim too.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that in there. Yeah. You'll observe that I play a Rickenbacker, and I've got a real iron prop. Mm-hmm. Now, certain Lemmy Kilminster used to walk around all the time in SS uniform. He used to collect all that.
Mm-hmm.
The iron crosses and all that. Might have had some influence.
Yes, no, indeed.
Another one was Zodiac Mindwarp, if you ever came across them.
I haven't, but added to my notes.
You're in for a treat.
Zodiac. Okay, hang on. Let me
Zodiac Mindwarp with the love reaction.
Zodiac Mind Warp and the love reaction. You haven't just got enough time. Fat fingers typing away. Of course, yes.
Have a look at Prime Mover, for example, and look at how they look and everything else. I've always really enjoyed that. I think probably a lot of that influenced Rob Zombie, I'm guessing.
Yes, I see a lot of that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I interviewed Alice Cooper on the radio once. He told me he was a big fan.
Yeah. No.
He toured them, and he covered one of their songs actually. "Be My Frankenstein's" a Zodiac Mindwarp song. And one other thing that influenced us is just before I went to Iraq, it strikes me, well, I didn't think about this for a long time, that I saw Marilyn Manson at the Reading Festival with Iron Maiden and Iggy and the Stooges. That's quite a good line-up around. He was going through his dictator phase at that point. That's just before I went to Iraq. So I don't know if that had some kind of hidden influence that I
think everything that we kind of see and kind of we take on little nuggets, and whilst we like to pride ourselves with our own unique, superfluous imagination, there is always, there's always like little kind of seeds and hallmarks and little kind of pinpoints kind of in the map of our journey, and these influence our creations, and for the better, because if everything was fresh and innovative, put my teeth back in, there would be no congruence throughout the lineage of mankind. So in some ways, in many ways, you're reminding people about history in a fun and engaging, serious and brutal and entertaining, but also important way. That's I think that's everyone.
We're also putting our spin on it as well. We're not that accurate historically.
No.
I've been criticised before. People said there was no Volga Bridge at the Battle of Stalingrad. Mm-hmm. I was like, there were no vampires?
No, indeed.
What do you want? It's not 100% accurate.
But even though it's, as you say, it's an act and it's for stage and what have you, we are now kind of venturing into generations that, it's so not long before all of these topics will be kind of phased from history, kind of in teachings in school and what have you, because it would just be so old. To some extent. So if people look at your kind of image and your presentation and they can see it's theatrical and then go, well, what actually was that about? With some of the footage that you use, which is increasingly becoming lost today as each day passes. I think that's something of merit, even if that wasn't your idea, your virtue, but it's
an interesting point.
It's an added bonus.
Interesting. That's a good thing. But the thing is, we also lean heavily into conspiracy theory as well. There's an awful lot of that in there, and that's good too, because people can read about it and go, the origin of that story is this thing. Is it true or not? Who knows?
Well,
the Nazi moon base isn't a thing. Don't look for it. It's not there. Especially you, Elon Musk, because you've actually got a spaceship.
Yes, yeah. even if it was there, would they tell us? Depends
if we can buy them on.
Oh, right. Well, Graham, it's been an absolute pleasure. Just do please let me know what's going on. I'd love to come and see this fantastic imagery for myself.
We work on a secrecy basis where we don't tell anyone what we're doing.
Yeah, well, okay.
It's a great way not to make any money.
I will find out when the gigs are. I've got my own Vampiric network in play, so yeah.
Cunning mortals, we've been outwitted again.
I'm a member of the Vampire Senate, which is why I haven't aged in the last 50 something years. So that's a complete fucking lie. What the hell am I talking about?
I was a bit intimidated.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just backtrack a whole lot.
Yeah, we will talk again soon. We'll communicate. I'll send my people to your people, and news will spread when it's a good and proper time to release it out.
The right time to tell the mortals. We will unveil it.
In the meantime, go and add. This is you, is not you. Go and add up Stuka Squadron. Absolutely banging. Really enjoyable material. Whether you're seeing them live or like me, stuck in a room with headphones, listening to metal all day. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And it's been a great pleasure sitting down and talking with you. And hopefully another discussion in future. And good luck in Somalia, Nigeria, and come back in one piece.
We're fine. I have done before, so it should be well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hail and kill.
Hail and kill.